Hello, can you hear me?
Well, I can't hear anything. You guys hear me? Huh.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
Hi, this
Everybody-
is Lauren Winters, Oregon DFR.
Good morning.
I was able to dig out my like 15-year-old laptop and get it running. So I'm gonna go to Costco tonight and buy a new computer.
Did you couldn't get your work one?
I have an appointment today, like at 1. They were busy today.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. They have no idea what it might be.
Yeah, it won't even power up now. I think it just burned up and died.
Oh, well, you were heating up to begin with, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Was it a new one or did they give you a used one?
it's brand new.
Son of a gun. Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay.
Gary, do you know who all's supposed to be joining today?
I think you're on mute, Karen. You dial in with your phone also, that way. Nothing. I think that's why I thought maybe mine wasn't working because you were talking. I'm thinking I can't hear a thing. So I think we can give a few more minutes or at least another minute and see what happens.
Okay, I think that's great. And we
Yeah,
have-
Carrie, if you want to dial in with your phone, that we. I yeah, at least dial in with your phone. That way we at least have your voice.
And this is Arthur here on the 5076 number. I'm driving today, but I'll be able to listen in.
Thanks, Arthur. And then we have somebody on 3788.
You got that Lauren Winters is on by phone for Oregon DFR, right?
No, that's,
Hello?
yeah,
How about-
hello.
How about now?
Now we got you.
Okay. Hey,
Hey, yeah, you've noted that I'm on by phone, right?
Yes,
Lauren Winters.
Lauren, yes.
Okay, great.
Lauren.
Thank you.
I think this is the whole committee.
It's a,
Arthur, are you on the phone?
Yep, that's me.
Okay. And we have Rose.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is everybody.
Is it?
Lisa's here. Yep. Andre, are you here?
don't see Andre.
Okay, then we're missing Andre.
I think she had a conflict at this time slot, so I'm not surprised. All right. Very good. So hopefully you've all, now Carrie, you sent out an update this morning. Are there any changes to those reports from what you sent out previously?
Only a name in the column to signify what type of loan the
Okay.
color code is. It didn't save on the first copy to show the difference between which were wildfire loans and which were regular program.
Got it. Thank you. But that does show on the version that you sent this morning.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think the first, and this is mostly a carryover agenda. Thank you for that reminder when you sent this out. I think there's a question about whether we should try and meet in December or not. So that's an open issue, and then we need to plan for and get scheduled out for 2023. And I think there was some discussion of changing the time and possibly the day, but we should probably just have a fresh conversation around that too. So first, maybe let's take the December meeting, and I guess I would look to OHCS folks to see, first of all, if there's anything that you would need from this group in December. And that would kind of be one data point for us.
I mean, I wrote down dates. As far as like any changes in, it looks like the legislation and stuff kind of gets fired up in January. I don't know if meeting in December, Rick, can you anticipate any changes or anything that we would need to prep for January? Oh, you're on mute.
I clicked it off. I'm still on mute?
No.
Okay. No, I don't foresee anything coming up. I mean, obviously, I think everybody's anticipating the results of tomorrow, and
Yeah.
so
Maybe we would know more tomorrow.
we would know more tomorrow. I think probably by the end of the week. I don't think tomorrow we would know anything either. But probably, just nothing that would, like you say, would be pressing, because everything gets started in January, and I don't know what everyone else's Decembers are like, but that's where staff starts. In fact, these 2 months, staff will start taking time off and stuff, and so nothing that I know of, I guess, to say that out loud and bring it back.
And can somebody remind me when session actually begins in 23?
The 17th.
Okay, so we've got a couple of weeks in the first part of January where we could meet after the holidays.
Oh, Rose put in the chat that you're available the first 2 weeks of December on Mondays and Fridays mostly. Yeah, if we met in December, it would be that first Monday. And I'm thinking, I think most folks are going to be out basically most of the week of Thanksgiving, if not at least half of it. And
Yeah. Is anybody going to have their heart broken if we cancel the December meeting and just reconvene in early January pre-session?
no. I'll just
Well,
throw
think
it
of-
out there. No, I
Wanna
won't be
think about that
heartbroken.
for a minute. Okay.
Just with how busy everything's been. And
All
I
right.
recall last year there wasn't a December meeting.
Yeah.
I think.
I think that makes sense. Okay, so let's do that. And then, so let's maybe, if people can think about the first 2 weeks of January, if there's any sort of blocks that are unavailable, the first week probably is going to be a lot of digging out for folks. I wonder if we should look at that second week of the 9th at some point.
We're already scheduled for the second Thursday. That was what had polled
Got it.
among people, was the
Okay.
second Thursday of odd months.
Still works for me. Anybody have a problem with that on the call, that being conflict?
What time?
9 to 10:30.
That should work.
That's the 12th, just to be specific. Okay, well, let's stick with that schedule then. And is there any reason not to just continue with that every other month on that time slot? Obviously, session responsibilities for anybody running bills and other things will take a precedent, but that's probably the best we can do. Okay. Good. I guess I haven't looked, maybe they haven't set meeting times yet for committees. Hopefully that's not a slot when one of the housing committees is gonna regularly meet. Because that would be the biggest conflict probably for some of us. All right, very good. So committee membership plan and recruiting. Again, Carrie or Rick, I'm not sure if either of you have any comments you want to throw in here. I know our numbers are pretty small right now, and I think it'd be helpful to sort of reinstate back up to a little bit larger group if we can find some willing participants. But what do you guys have in mind? Do you have specific ideas?
I was gonna see if maybe some of the, we have some people on the DRAC committee that I was gonna see maybe, other than that, so I approach some of our partners that we work with that are always consistent about voicing or asking questions. Other than that, I'm at a loss for other candidates, we'll say.
Okay. Nancy?
Yeah, I've got a person in mind. I've had a rough year. My kid's been in the hospital more than out. He just got discharged again. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be on the road to be more active. But there is a homeowner down in the southern Oregon area that might be very interested in it. So I'm going to be contacting him this week and see. That would be a manufactured home owner.
Right.
That would be good. Yeah.
That'd be terrific. Would love to get more homeowners represented.
Mhm.
Are they in a park or are they on their own land?
They're in a park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that'd be a great voice to have at the table. So yeah, let us know. Do you want to reach out and ask that question?
Yeah, his name, I don't remember what is it. Actually, there's two of them, but anyway, his name escapes me right now because I'm filled up with other things, but I will reach out and let you guys know.
Okay. And probably Rick, you and Carrie would want to have a conversation with this person to sort of size everything up and whatnot.
Okay, I'll let them know, or I'll
Good.
let the board know.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can just do an email introduction to Rick and Carrie as well,
yeah.
if one of them is interested.
Okay, great.
What about our other agencies? We seem to have lost, other than Arthur, a number of them. I'm not sure how fruitful or time worthy it is. The other two organizations that have some historic, well, three, I guess, would be Dev Northwest, NeighborWorks Umpqua, and St. Vincent de Paul, although I think Terry politely declined the first time around. And generally is pretty busy. I don't know if he's got a staff person running point on his manufactured housing stuff or not by now. But I think both Dev Northwest and NeighborWorks Umpqua would be good organizations to try and pull in if either one of them has the capacity to add somebody.
I agree with you, Bill. I see that I'm meeting with Kyle this week. They are hiring a navigator too.
Oh, good.
So I think it'd be great to have those folks in the loop. That way that, they can see what's coming in the future. And also, person I was thinking is Tammy Kaufman. She manages, I think, 5 of the preserve parks. And she's pretty active in her communities. I think she'd be a great addition.
Those are all great suggestions. Thank you. Do you want to, will somebody follow up with Kyle about making that connection and getting their new hire engaged? Okay.
And I can reach out to St. Vinny's and see.
Okay. And I'd be happy to reach out to Dev Northwest and NeighborWorks Umpqua and just see, unless one of you is regularly working with them on something already.
I think Everett works with Dev Northwest a lot. I don't think anyone works with, I don't think we've really worked with Umpqua at all.
Okay, I'll reach out to NeighborWorks Umpqua. Everett, if you want to use your contacts at Dev Northwest and invite somebody, I think that'd be great. Okay. That's a good list. If we actually get those people, that'll probably be about as much as we really want, to be honest. We probably won't get them all. So, okay.
Hi, this
Great.
is Rose with CASA, and Lisa. I noticed Lisa and I are both on the committee, and I don't know that we both need to be on, and so I'm going to step away from the committee and then just support Lisa behind the scenes. But one of the things I was wondering about is if we could have more detail about the type of homes that are being purchased. Size and price would be great, just so we kind of get some trending information there.
You mean
Awesome.
in the replacement program?
Yeah, in the replacement
Yeah.
program. What are people buying, and what are price points that we're seeing, that kind of thing? Are they, assuming they all have to meet the standards of energy efficiency, correct? Okay. And then let's see, I'm sorry, I missed the agency that was developing a housing navigator position, because I'm trying to draft a job description for a housing navigator. It was modeled after the state job, which is very different. And so I wondered if whoever it was that is developing the housing navigator job might be able to email me their job description.
Yeah, Rose, it's Everett. It's posted on LinkedIn, the job description.
Okay.
And I don't think it's Dev Northwest. I'll find out. I think it's Clear Result.
I think that's right. If it's
It's actually-
Kyle, it's Clear Result.
Yeah, it's Clear Result. So if you just go on their LinkedIn, it's there.
On Clear Results LinkedIn. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, great. And so I'm going to sign off, and you're in great hands with Lisa. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose.
Thanks, Rose.
Bye.
So I think, no, go ahead. Sorry. Arthur.
Would it be helpful to have somebody, would it be helpful to have a representative from the manufacturing community, one of the builders of these?
That's an interesting idea, Arthur. I think that's a good idea. I'm just trying to think of how we'd go about getting somebody to join. Let's think about that. If you know of somebody, certainly put a name forward. I've got a couple of names. I'd be happy to talk with Carrie and Rick about those and just see if there's a good opportunity to reach out.
Yeah, the two names I've got are Todd Haddikin at Skyline, and also the guy, and he's in McMinnville at Skyline Industries there, and also the guy at Laser Industries in Almsville, whose name I can't place right now. But I've got two ideas. Yeah.
Okay. And then I know somebody at Palm Harbor too that might be another potential resource for us. And eventually, St. Vinny's will have their factory up and running. We should probably have Terry come as an invited guest, maybe even in January, to give this group an update on their progress with getting their factory off the ground. Would be useful. And then just circling back very quickly, and I see Andre's on. Thank you. Welcome, Andre. The pipeline, we can go back and go through this, but Rosa's request about purchase price of the home, I think that actually would be, I can't think of a reason why you couldn't share that. I mean, think about it. Everett and Carrie, if there's any reason you think the actual sort of sticker purchase price, not after incentives or anything, but what that cost would be, and whether it's a single section or a double section. Those two data points on this might be a really helpful addition to the pipeline report. Okay, great. All right, making good progress. Well, that gets us into the pipeline review. So I don't know who's
Right.
handling that, but if you guys want to take it away, that'd be great.
I think maybe I'll start. Oh no. Okay. Sorry. My computer is giving me that your computer's going to restart in 15 minutes for a software update.
Uh-oh, better talk fast.
It's not giving me an option to not do it. In the event that it does it, Rick, are you able to log back on and restart this meeting if it shuts everything down?
Maybe he.
I'm sorry, Carrie, one more time.
The message that your computer's about to restart to do an update.
Mine is?
Mine is. It just
Oh.
popped up. I have 13 minutes and 55 seconds before it does it. And it does,
Okay.
it's not giving me an option to not do it.
Okay.
So it'll shut down this meeting in that amount of time.
Okay, so you want me to restart?
It might be better to restart the meeting now.
Okay.
Can you
Let
share
me-
host? Can you just share the hosting?
Yeah, can you move that
Oh,
over?
maybe. Okay. How do I do that?
I don't know. I just know it's a thing. I don't have a clue.
Oh,
Will it really kick all of us off? I don't know.
It'll
that it will.
it'll restart my computer.
Yeah, and I think it will. So I think if you go to participants. Yeah.
The way I remember doing it, and I haven't done it in a while, is if Carrie
Oh, okay, I can,
goes, you got it?
I just figured out how to make Rick a host.
Great.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay. Got it. Whew. Sorry about that, guys. So for the pipeline, darn this thing, it won't even get off my screen. Everett, do you mind putting up the pipeline or sharing it so that I can see it?
I don't have my work computer running.
Ah,
Rick, do you got it? Let me see if I can email it over here. Hang on a second.
this thing is, oh wait, okay, I got it. Okay. Do you guys see that?
No.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're starting with committed.
Yes. So the first, I figured I'd pull this one up since it's for the current year, and it also shows the numbers for 2021. So the how I broke it down when I sent the two attachments was I separated the loans out by year, the loans that were committed in 2021, and then the loans that were committed in 2022. But I have the 2021 numbers on this sheet also. I figured I'd pull this one up since this committee, I think, is fairly familiar with what was done in 2021. And I could pull the other one up if you guys want to see the 2021 numbers, but I figure you're probably more interested in what we're doing right now. So the current pipeline and trends that we're seeing, particularly in October and November, is we're continuing to do probably, I would say, equal number, and correct me if I'm wrong, Everett, of wildfire loans, GAP loans, as well as regular replacement loans. We've currently got maybe, what would you say, about 10 in the works?
Yeah, I think seven are applied. We got probably another 6 in various stages. We're not putting them in the pipeline until they have a completed application with all the necessary documents. So, and sometimes, it can take 60 plus days, to get a contractor to give them bids and to figure out what permits they need. So it's kind of a lengthy process, but yeah, that's pretty close, Carrie.
Okay. So the numbers that I find most helpful to see for me data wise on here are what we've done in the last 2 years, or not 2 years, full years, for 2021 and 22 on here. Are the number of homes and the average of each loan and how the costs have gone up, and really where the program funding is at this time. So I don't have my glasses on. So for 2022, It's 28 loans total, homes total for $2 million, a little over $2 million. The average loan being 73,000. 19 of those were wildfire loans, and 9 of them were, well, there's 10 now, but 9 of them were regular program loans in 2022. That number for 2021 was almost the, I think it was 18 and 1. Combined since program inception, it's 44 homes for 2,733,000. 34 of them being wildfire loans and 10 of them being regular programs. So in 2021, there's only 1 regular program. Since January of 2022, really, even though I separated them by years, it's more March, April that things have really taken off for the regular program.
Lisa has a question.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I can't see that because I'm just looking at the
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
Carrie, I see that, like of the wildfire loans, the average compared with the regular MHR
Uh-huh.
loan, it's about $30,000, a little over $30,000 more
Right.
for regular loans. Is there a reason why that is?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's because wildfire survivors have other resources,
So they're just not applying for as much through you guys.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically wildfire survivors, a lot of them haven't had insurance.
Mhm.
They got FEMA money and then the WRRA funds that while they were available, they would go to their needs committee and they might have only gotten, let's just say $80,000 or $100,000 towards a project, and they needed another 15 to complete it. So we would fill that gap.
So that's why I differentiated in the shades of green. So these I think there's 8 of them so far with WRA loans down
Okay.
here. These WRA loans are anywhere from $110,000 to $175,000 in addition to the gap loan they're receiving from us. So their resources are significantly greater than the regular program participants down here.
And are we fully like deployed, or is there more money in the program?
What were the numbers I emailed?
I think we're down to their last $1.2 million.
Okay.
And Bill had a question also.
Yeah, that actually was my question. It'd be really helpful at the bottom of this if you kind of put the total resource, what's committed, what's in the pipeline, what's remaining. I think that'd
Yeah.
be really helpful.
That number is kind of let's say there's a word for it, but it's not a real number only because we have, as soon as applications get completed, they'll go into the pipeline, they'll be awarded or allocated. So it's right now it's 1, 2, but as soon as it could change tomorrow because application comes in, it's approved, and then we're going to go ahead and at least reserve funds for that project. So we anticipate the funds will be completely allocated, more than likely, if not at the end of this month, maybe the middle of next month, and then it'll be done. But certainly before the end of the year, we'll be fully allocated and we'll be out of funds completely.
Yeah, that's great. Still it'd be good to know what that total what the total original, what the total number was we started with, and then get to a bottom reconciliation of what's left so we can just kind of track that as we go. Might be useful too. I don't know how you do it. Maybe just an asterisk under the county column for the loans that were approved after the rule change with the dollar increase, so we can kind of track that delta between the loan sizes before and after that change. So on the allocated pipeline, what's that one gonna show that is different from this?
Can
You
you,
sent out two pipelines, one
Um,
allocated, one committed.
no, they're both um committed. I just separated them by year.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry if I missed
So
that.
we still have some from that were committed in 2021, not as many, but there are still some from 2021 whose homes haven't come out of the factory yet, that so they're committed but haven't been funded. So when they do, then we'll send the funds out.
Well, that's going to be another interesting data point that I'm wondering if you're going to have an ability to track and report on. I think it'd be really interesting over time to watch that construction timeline of homes in the factory, so that, you know, track the date the order was placed versus the date the home left the factory and was delivered. I think being able to mark that trend line, I know it's gotten longer and hopefully it's going to start getting shorter again, but I think having those in a system somewhere so you can track that, I think would be really useful information.
Did anyone else have any other questions on that?
Okay. I have 28 seconds before I do a quick restart and come back.
Sometimes those forced restarts take a really long time because it takes them a while to update all of the software. So good luck.
Thank you.
So I have a question which may or may not be related to all this. I've been seeing a lot of advertisements about this class action lawsuit against Pacific Power, Pacific Power in regard to the wildfires. And it says that it is set for April of 23. Plaintiffs include owners of 2,500 properties burned in the Beach, Sea Creek, Santiam Canyon fires, along with the Echo Mountain 242 and South Oban chain fires. And they said that the outcome of the trial will impact anyone harmed by fires, even if they haven't taken legal action. So I don't know how or even if it would impact any of this stuff, because those things can go on and appealed and everything else. But does anybody have any ideas about that?
I wouldn't think it'd affect our process because we're part of the fixing of the issue as
Right.
far as lost homes. I mean, it's separate. I don't see how we would be involved in something like that because
Yeah.
we came in after all this happened type of
Right.
thing.
And then usually what happens is, like in these class action suits, you get like $25, out of the whole thing. So, I mean, I don't know, but if it was a substantial amount of money that these people received and they haven't been given a grant or a loan from us yet, that might impact them. I'm just saying, who knows though, maybe this process will all be done by then anyway. Or they'll win the $1.8 billion Powerball and they wouldn't have to worry about it.
That can't possibly be it because I'm doing it, right?
No, I was just curious because
That's
that's all over all the time for this now. So
that's a really good observation, because if you look at Beachy Creek, for example, I know there's a lot of MHs in that area that A, have not requested assistance, or B, fallen through the cracks through WIRA. So that's it. That's a pretty interesting question. So if it is a significant amount of money, will they need assistance? A, and B, how much will that be? So that's something we might want to keep our eyes on.
Mhm. Thank you.
All right, anything else about the pipelines?
I guess to follow up is businesses seems to be booming right now in the regular program. And the volume I'm seeing is increasing as the word gets out. So next is our plan to deal with applicants post committing of funds and that transition between what July of next year and now. So that's kind of where Carrie and I are kind of focused right now.
So I guess 2 quick questions on that, Everett. How are you seeing this new interest with respect to fee simple versus in-park homes? How's that balance looking?
I would say 60% fee simple to 40% in the parks. There's interest in the parks, but as you've seen the interest rates climb, it's really taken effect.
So it's an income kind of thing. So people on fee simple have more money, and so they, even though they're still lower income, that they have a bigger opportunity to actually purchase a home. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Correct. Yeah. The income, the median income of fee simple is a lot higher than in parks, considerably higher. And yeah, they do have resources. They may have savings or other resources that they can contribute towards the program. And they have a better borrowing capacity as well.
Right. And I think I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit of a broken record, and it's something that in this group early on, I think we were finding with the co-ops at least, is that because they have to pay a space lease, their ability to borrow is basically eliminated. And so, their ability then to replace their home becomes unattainable. And I feel like we're not, even though it's a huge position, I don't even know what to say, but it's like, we're not addressing, I think, the most vulnerable people and the people who really need to get those homes replaced because they're living in unhealthy conditions, but they have nowhere else to go. And I don't know if this group is interested in having a bigger conversation on that, but it's really something that I think is important to CASA because it's just, it's devastating to see some of those folks and what they have to live in, and there's no opportunity for them.
I agree. And I think that the biggest contributing factor is just the increase in cost, especially right now. The building cost, I think, was forecasted to go up 20%. And I was looking at data from around June, and it's probably over 40%. I mean, the construction, the site work bids for the same work are just going up and up and up and up. And until something happens there, it's going to affect a lot of people in terms of replacing their homes, put it to you that way.
But the rule change was in part to address that very issue. So I think part of that's already been taken into account, Lisa, and maybe that officially happened while you were on sabbatical. I can't remember the timing. But that rule change now provides a lot of resource available for the people who need it. I can't remember where the number ended up, but it was a sizable contribution.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. You're right. I haven't been around for some of those conversations, and so I'm a little behind the 8 ball. But I do appreciate that we can try to figure something out at some point because I think it's really important.
Yeah, and Lisa, I would just say, make sure all of the co-op folks know about this opportunity with the change in the rule. Just because there may be a window here while there's still a little money left for them to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I wish it were that simple, Bill. I appreciate that. Because the other thing Bio found out, I think, through this group as well, is how that housing navigator position and getting somebody through it. And obviously, the state's doing a good job with the list of people who have been able to participate in this program. So yay on you all. But I just feel there's so many hoops to jump through that by the time somebody tried to at this point, I think all that money will be gone. But still worth it to try if we can.
Well, they can't try if they don't know. So need to get the word out.
Yeah, I feel that that's a good point too, Bill. And I feel, and I think Everett would echo that once we place homes in parks, there's your neighbors know what you can afford. They're going to say, "Where'd you get that from?" So I think that would create a lot more interest also, which is, that's what we're hoping for as well. That as homes get placed in different parks or in different areas. The other thing too is that it's been a slow, because of wildfire and everything else, that the focus has been different. So hopefully in this next year, as we start placing homes, and the focus will come back on the program and the program itself. I mean, with not knowing what's going to happen with new government, I'm hoping that this program sticks around. I mean, nothing's for certain, and so we're hoping we can keep the program running, but we won't know until we know.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Tomorrow's a good day.
Andre?
So when the program runs out of money, is your intention to keep accepting applications during that time so you can demonstrate a pipeline? That's my first question. I see, yes, a lot of heads nodding. And so Lisa, to your point, it's good to get in line. And if it takes some folks a little bit longer to get in line, now is the time. I mean, there's no time like the present to take that. And I am sympathetic to the things that you say about the program, the challenges for people accessing it. The second thing is do we have any sense of, I know it's pre-election, but do we have any sense of where the intentions are in terms of the department for asking for more, for funding this again? That's the second question. And then the third is I think, and Bill, correct me on this, but I think we have an annual report due at some point, and I'm not sure I remember exactly when, but this would be, as I recall, it's coming out pretty soon, and this would be a great time to press the point about what we've been able to do. You guys have been able to do so far.
Yeah, and I can't remember the timing on the reports. I know there's some reporting at some sequence. I can't remember. I know we did one to Housing Stability Council a while ago. I don't remember what the frequency requirements are about that.
It's annually, but I don't remember the date. I believe that there's a requirement for an annual report in the bylaws or whatever it is that holds us together. Or it may be in the legislation.
Yeah, could be. I can't remember.
So, I mean, I see that not as just a thing to do. I actually see that as an opportunity to do some advocacy.
Yeah.
So.
I guess one last question on this. Everett, do you know how people are finding your program? I'm just interested, especially with the fee simple people who don't have maybe a park manager or somebody to give information to.
It's honestly, it's out there. The word's out there. Like I said, my phone's rings constantly. A lot of it's word of mouth. Contractors, it's a great program, so everybody's taking advantage of it. And one thing I do want to circle back to the parks. And this is an example of a client that I was working with recently, and they lived in a preserve park. Even with our loan increases, they still couldn't do the project. So we're looking at an average of about $175,000 to replace a single wide home. And even with our loan increases, they couldn't borrow the needed money. And unfortunately, that person won't be able to participate in the program. So I just want to make sure, yes, the word's out there. We're getting plenty of requests and seeing how we're kind of coming to the end of the budget. I don't know how much we want to market this program until we get funded again. it might be do us a disservice to have to say no to a lot of people and get that bad taste in people's mouths about our program.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with that, Everett, at this point of where we're at. But I think if we're successful getting more resources for this program, a marketing plan has to be the very first thing that happens. It's just a fairness issue to make sure a wide swath of potential consumers have access to it, and not just the fortunate who happen to hear about it through somebody. So I do
Yeah,
think
I was working on a marketing plan, and then I just kind of
Yeah. that makes
mothballed it.
sense. Yep, I think that makes sense until we know where it's going with the session at this point. You'll be able to spend what you've got left easily, so that makes sense to me. And just, again, a reminder, this program was conceived as a pilot. I think that word's even in the legislation, and it's exactly for this reason. So we learn sort of where those boundaries are and where the barriers are, and so we can address them. And it wasn't intended to be an anti-poverty program. It was intended to replace old, unhealthy, inefficient homes. And so, we just need to keep all of that in mind. And we can tweak that. I mean, I think it'd be good to have that conversation about what we think the program should be going forward. Obviously, it's the department's program now, and they get to have an outsized vote in that. But we should at least have a discussion and provide an opinion about it. But let's wait and see if it gets refunded, which I'm assuming it will.
I like your positivity, Bill.
Well, maybe yes. Thank you. I'll just leave it at that. I just you're right. I mean, the need is great, and so we just have to kind of thread the needle on what the right balance is for a program like this, knowing that we can't help every single person. So, all right. And I see Andre looked up the reporting timelines. Thank you, Andre. I'm sure that means you'll be drafting the report and providing it to Housing Stability Council. She disappeared quickly with that one.
I'd be willing, actually, one of the things that, depending on availability and timing, if I can get the information that we talked about having on the reports on the loans, the thing that I can do with an updated Excel spreadsheet sent to me is I might be able to produce some graphics to be inserted in the report if that's something that staff is not able to access resources internally. We've got some really great people in OHCS, other folks who can help you with that. But I mean, all the data points that Bill talked about would be fascinating. Being able to show the increase in cost, how long it's taking for homes to actually get placed, the different kinds of funding sources, the different populations that we've reached and served, and all those other kind of things can all be illustrated in graphics and numbers. And I think you've got a compelling story to tell. And so if insofar as I can be of help with that, given other commitments, I'd be happy to. And if you get someone internally to do that work for you, I'd be happy to kind of let them do the work and sort of look over their shoulder. And I guess that'd be my preferred thing.
Thank you. I'll let staff decide how much of that offer to take you up on. But it sounds like good stuff to put in. And I agree about doing that analysis. And not for today, but just for a future conversation as well. I think it'd be great to think about two other things to figure out a way to track. One would be pretty difficult without some money and legislative direction, but these home replacements touch two other things. One is health outcomes for the people who have spent so much of their life in really poor living conditions versus post replacement. do a longitudinal study of that. So that's not an immediate thing. But then the other is just emissions reductions from energy efficiency gained in a new home. And I'm guessing that the energy folks at the department could do some great estimates based on just data that they have for that stuff, or the Energy Trust could. But being able to sort of add those two components to this, I think will be really important to sort of demonstrate the range of benefits that come out of a program like this, in addition to just the basic housing need and quality. Yeah, Andre.
The things that you're talking about, in terms of health impacts and stuff like that, would be a really great thing for a public health graduate student to take on as thesis research. I'm no longer connected to PSU, but oh my gosh, I mean, that would make a perfect, if they're interested in the impact of interventions, get a thesis student working on it, and it wouldn't be necessarily available right away, but it could be quite good.
Yeah, and I think it would be, yeah, I agree. That's probably something that's going to be several years down the road. So you have enough time post replacement to really show the health outcomes. But I think what might be useful, I'm just saying this, for the department's consideration, is maybe extracting or identifying potential willing participants as homeowners and get them to agree when they replace their home that there may be this research participation opportunity down the road, so that it'll be easy to go back and track people 3 years from now, maybe.
Just a research design point. The best thing to do is to be able to collect data before they get their new home, and then after they get their new home. So, starting an informal recruitment process within the department now, as you talk to people, would be really powerful.
Yeah.
And you might even get someone who is teaching and needs to do research and evaluation stuff for their to have publications. It might even be someone at that level, so someone already with a PhD.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So I'd like to revisit this specific issue down the road. It doesn't have to be January, but it could be January. And then I know we're out of time. I've got to jump to a 10 o'clock. But I would love to have those last 3 bullet points be first on the agenda, maybe next time, obviously after an election debrief and an outlook, and pipeline update. Alec?
Yeah, hey, just a quick update. We are near completion of our first installation of the manufactured home, probably later this week. And our communications group is looking for a couple quotes from the state side. So Everett, I don't know if you've worked directly with that homeowner. I'm sort of a interim, but we're trying to identify who might be able to offer a couple comments for a press release.
Yeah, the UEC with the business community, they're handling the navigation on that. So we're just processing paperwork.
Okay. Yeah, we've got them on board for making that happen. But Bill, is that anything you'd be interested in just commenting or at least talking to?
Yeah, I think it'd be great though. The department's putting money into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's a great opportunity to help get some PR, especially right in advance of the legislative session. So I don't know, if the department, what the protocols are for getting approval to have an official statement. I could do it on behalf of MHAC, but, I think it'd be more powerful if somebody from the department could say something.
Yeah, we have to run that past, and more than likely, Alexander or Nicole will do it.
Okay.
But we'll run it up to public affairs.
Okay, yeah, Rick, how about I just make you point of contact on the outreach?
I'll do that, and then they'll more than likely they'll contact you directly.
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
Mhm.
And Bill, I'll do the same. I'll get you copied on that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to run, you guys. Great updates today. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to picking all this up in January.
Yeah, and if my staff could stick around, and then we'll debrief. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
You guys, should we just